Hey Meg,
Hey, how are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Good.
Very good. Let me take a minute here and unblur my background. So, what are we doing here today? What meeting is this? What's happening?
Okay, can I ask you something? Our weekly series where we talk about work and life. And today I'm thinking that we will talk a little bit about both because we had different kinds of questions that we wanted to pose. So in the last weeks, we've just asked a question and both answered it. But it sounded like you had something more like business centric, and I had something in mind more personal, and your background's actually perfect for my question.
Yeah, very good. Okay. Okay. So, can I ask you something
Let's go.
business-like? Okay.
Yeah.
So, campaign feasibility studies, we do a lot of them. A core component of them is the feasibility study interview. What happens in those?
Good question. People write this in or ask it a lot at the end of workshops, so I feel like it's relevant. In a conversation, we use that word interchangeably with interview. In a feasibility study conversation, we are finding out from that person exactly what they care about, their philanthropic priorities, what their spouse, if they have one, cares about, where they've been involved and how that's been. We are learning everything that we can about this family's values, how they make their money, how they spend their money, where the money comes from that they give away. And this is like a tall order in 1 hour, but this is our expertise, it's our job. And so you've heard me say a million times, or if anyone listening has been in a major gift webinar or workshop with me, that we're marrying up affinity with wealth capacity. And my job, your job, Phil's job, anyone on our team's job in those 1 hour long conversations is to do exactly that. I need to uncover this person's affinity for this mission and this specific campaign project. I need to find out like what motivates them, what kind of outcomes do they want to drive with their giving. And then I need to learn a little bit about their business. So this is where I always tell people you don't have to read philanthropy centric news all of the time. You should read world news all the time. Today, for example, bless anyone having a feasibility study interview while the market is like this because people will definitely want to talk about it. But that is something that you need to be able to hang with and bring up. So you should leave the conversation with enough information to make an informed recommendation, an informed strategy on how much you think that this person could be solicited for and what based on the questions that you posed. I feel like we use the word conversation more than interview because interview suggests that someone's sitting down and I'm saying like, what's your name? Where do you live? What do you do for work? How much did you give to the last campaign? How much did you give to your church campaign? And it's not like that. It's like, hey, Sally, where'd you grow up? Where do your kids go to school? How's that experience been? Have you ever been involved there more? Do they ever run a campaign? You're asking everything. Like, we just got back from Aspen skiing. Oh, do you always go to Aspen skiing? Do you guys have a place there? It's like, how do we naturally bring up points in a conversation to understand wealth markers and directly pose questions around the affinity for giving to or investing in this impact? And part two is usually like, well, why can't a gift officer do it? A
Right.
gift officer can do a lot of this conversation in order to qualify their own prospects, but this idea that like a more neutral third party comes in with the purpose of just uncovering and gathering all this information to inform a report kind of sets the meeting up so that they know our relationship with them isn't going to be built personally necessarily over a very long period of time. It's for the greater good of the organization to benefit from what we find out. So we enter into this conversation with them having an understanding that we're seeking honest, real feedback and information. And I think that the difference with a gift officer is that he or she is building that rapport over a period of time and almost always continuing to qualify this person as a major or principal gift prospect. And so the line of questioning is just going to feel different and be spread in like a different atmosphere over a different timeline.
Sure. Sure. That makes sense. Yeah.
So I like doing feasibility study interviews, and I know you do, and I feel like that's what our firm That's like our bread and butter. That's what we do. Unrelated, my question for you actually has to do with creating. Like, I feel like you have to be creative in feasibility studies. It's one of the ways that I like to like flex those other muscles in my brain to think about a strategy that would make sense for a person. We talk about our work a lot through the lens of an artist because I'm a writer and you're an artist, and bringing that to philanthropy makes it more playful per some earlier week's conversation, and also keeps it very interesting for us. But you actually create art and you've talked about it, but it occurred to me like, I don't know exactly what. So I'm glad that you don't have your background blurred, because what do you make?
Oh my goodness. Well, I make a lot of different things. I have always been more of a project-based artist, like always starting with ideas and then just making the thing that makes sense to communicate the idea or just to explore what I'm interested in. So it may manifest as a drawing, it may be a video, it might be a sculpture. But my favorite is when I like merge all of those, which does end up being like in a video. And right now I am working on, it's really funny too, because, yeah, when I have I guess I'm like bringing my whole self to work today with unblurring my background. Maybe I'll do it in some other calls, but it's like, it is funny because I'm here. This does double as like my studio and my office. And so when I'm sitting in my calls, like little does somebody know that like 2 feet away from me is like this is staring at me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, you're bringing a different vibe to your Zoom calls than a
Yeah,
person at a corporate office is. This is fair to say.
right. Yeah. This is I'm playing with the idea of claymation and stop motion animation.
Okay.
Now stop motion animation where you like, take a photograph, move it a little bit, take a
Oh,
photograph, move
yeah.
it a little bit. That would take hours upon hours that I don't have, so it's going to be some kind of modified version of that, but yeah, I'm working on some characters here.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, here's
Oh,
another head that
so
I'm
talented.
modeling out. Thank you. So yeah, that's sneak preview on what's hanging around me right now.
Okay, what the one you just showed reminds me of like some images that I feel like I saw in the book Sapiens, which was the hardest book I've ever read. Have you read that?
Oh, that
Yeah.
like
I had to
traces the
read,
entire history of like
yeah, I had to read each page like 3 times.
I
Um,
haven't tried it.
okay, well, keep us apprised of, wow, this is some serious talent.
This is she's not clothed yet, but I'm working on designing her costume now.
Wow. Well, I can't wait to see the finished product.
Yeah, thanks, Meg.
I
Hit
like
me back in like 2 years and I'll have a masterpiece.
No, this is how I feel about my book. I'm working on one. And I also am creating, so I write on my Substack now once a week. And today I wrote one this morning. Like before I started this work, I did that work because that really gets my brain going in all the right places. And I wrote about my tooth saga. Last week I told you how I broke my tooth when we
Yes.
yeah, it's fixed, but still very painful. Here I am a week later, and I can report that times have been tough here in the molars during Teethgate 25 at the George House. But there is a lot of modern day dentistry at my fingertips, and I will prevail.
Well, that's there's a lot of vulnerability in all of this. So I think that's like also a really interesting conversation because, you releasing your Substack and you talk about your personal life, you talk like I'm curious about that because also me just like when I just like took my weird doll and showed everybody, I'm like, this is vulnerability because like, yeah, we show up to our Zoom meetings with folks and like we do our job and we do it
Yeah.
well, but like then we also put out into the world these things and like those often just stay separate. And I think in these little conversations that we do, we're trying to kind of like bridge that gap and kind of just like, introduce that concept. So how did that feel to you like as press send on your first Substack?
Yeah, I'm sure it feels so similar to showing something that you're creating in private. The irony is that you actually ultimately want people to enjoy the art, and yet showing it to people makes you feel vulnerable and like kind of weird. Like
Yeah.
you have to almost delete the option from your brain that anyone's going to like ask questions or have weird comments about it, because you're like, but it doesn't matter. It's not
Right.
for other people to say I'm the best or be obsessed with. It's for me to express myself, and I hope people enjoy it. And that's how I
Absolutely.
felt about hitting like send, was that if you feel like a calling to do something, like if you feel called towards a gift that you might have to offer, you have to then admit that you might be good at something, which already feels weird. Then you have to say to people, like, I think I'm good enough at this thing to put it out for your consumption, which feels twice as weird. And then in it, I write personal things, but like each week gets easier. Sometimes I have weird topics like my teeth. I mean, that's a pretty weird topic to write about, but I like, it's very therapeutic to write things, just like you've said, it's so therapeutic to create for you. So I think it's going to keep getting easier, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's right. Joy, ease, teeth, and googly eyes. Cheers to all of that, Meg.
Cheers to that and feasibility study conversations and more.
Don't forget about those. I will have them with real people and potentially, figurines. So it all is a feeding circle. So
It sure is.
Meg,
Well, thanks for doing this with me. I know you're busy and I love asking you questions.
yeah, ditto. I'm gonna see you in about 10 minutes and then I'll see you next week to ask you another question.
See you then and then.
All
Bye.
right. Bye.